He just blindsided the entire NFL. A two-time Pro Bowler dropped a trade request that nobody saw coming. And now every contender in the league, including your Chicago Bears, has to answer one question: do you go get him? If you want more breaking news like this the second it happens, smash that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe right now. Let's get into it. Here's the situation. Vita Vea, the Buccaneers' anchor at defensive tackle since 2018, has officially requested a trade out of Tampa Bay. Why? Contract talks completely fell apart. Vea wants an extension. He wants to get paid like the elite interior lineman he still is. And honestly, look around the league and you can't blame him. He watched Jeffrey Simmons land a record-shattering deal worth over $35 million a year in Tennessee. He watched Devontae Wyatt, a solid player, but nowhere near Vea's level, cash in for $19 million annually in Green Bay. And then the gut punch: Dexter Lawrence, 3 years younger than Vea, got flipped to the Bengals and immediately signed a massive one-year extension worth $28 million. Vea looked at all of that and said enough. He's 31 years old, sure, but he's not just some declining veteran limping toward retirement. This is a guy who's still producing at a high level, and he wants Tampa to recognize it. So now the real question hits: should the Bears actually go get him? Let's be real for a second. Anytime a difference-making defensive tackle hits the trade block, you have to at least kick the tires, especially when your pass rush desperately needs juice. This isn't about blindly throwing assets at every big name. It's about whether the price makes sense for a unique 31-year-old talent who still moves like a nightmare for opposing offensive linemen. And make no mistake, Vea is still that dominant. Over his last 4 seasons, he's averaged around 6 sacks a year. Yes, last season dipped to 4.5, but his pass rush win rate stayed elite. Here's the wild part: as he's gotten older, he's actually gotten better as a pass rusher. His run defense has slipped slightly, sure, but he's still above average there too. Pro Football Focus has him graded out strong across the board: mid-70s overall, high 70s as a pass rusher, north of 60 in run defense, and a pass rush win rate sitting above 10%. Those are the numbers of a difference maker, not a fading veteran. And Chicago's defensive line, it needs exactly this kind of jolt. It doesn't have to be Vea specifically, but a player of his caliber would instantly become the best defensive tackle on this roster, no argument. That's not a knock on Grady Jarrett, who's had a fantastic career. It's just the truth. Vea, even at 31, is closer to his peak than Jarrett is to his. Now here's where it gets spicy. Word is Vea's preference is to head to the West Coast, specifically the Raiders, Chargers, Rams, or 49ers. And if you're a fan of literally any other team in the NFC, you should be terrified of one scenario in particular: the Rams landing him. Picture this: Vea lining up next to a returning Aaron Donald, with Myles Garrett-level disruption already on the edge from Byron Young, plus Braden Fisk rotating through. That defensive front would be an absolute horror show for the rest of the conference. But don't count the Bears out just yet. Insiders believe if a team outside that West Coast wish list steps up and actually offers Vea the money and the extension he's chasing, he'd be open to expanding his list. Are the Rams really going to hand him a big money extension with everything else already on their books? Doubtful. Which means this could still swing toward Chicago, or several other suitors, if Tampa ultimately decides to move on. Now here's your first question. Be honest in the comments. If you're Ryan Poles, are you making the call to Tampa Bay today, or are you sitting this one out? Let's talk value, because this is where it gets tricky. Vea is a premium player, but he's also 31, which changes the calculus completely. One analyst pointed out something fascinating: over the last 3 combined seasons, only 2 nose tackles have racked up at least 50 to 60 total pressures. One of them just got traded for a 10th overall pick, that's Dexter Lawrence. The other just requested a trade, that's Vea. But here's the catch: Lawrence is 3 years younger. That's basically an entire extra contract cycle of prime production. So don't expect Vea to command anything close to a first-round pick. A high second-round pick, maybe, if the right contender steps up with real urgency. Realistically, think third round as the ceiling in most scenarios. Part of why Cincinnati paid up for Lawrence was desperation. They needed a sure thing on defense immediately, and were willing to pay a premium. Tampa Bay isn't necessarily in that same panic mode with Vea, which likely keeps his price more grounded. From Chicago's side, a third-round pick straight up feels like a fair swing. If it climbs to a second-rounder, the Bears should be getting something back in return, maybe a day 3 pick attached to soften the blow. Then there's the money. Vea has 1 year and $18 million remaining on his deal. Can Chicago afford that right now? Technically, no. They're currently sitting near the bottom of the league in available cap space, just over $8 million. But this front office has spent all offseason showing it has plenty of tools to create space, restructures, extensions that lower cap hits immediately, you name it. If they want him badly enough, the money can be found. So here are 2 realistic trade packages worth debating. Option 1, a clean third-round pick for Vea, paired with a new 2-year extension in the range of $50 million to keep him motivated and locked in. Option 2, send a younger defensive tackle currently on his rookie deal, plus a 4th-round pick, betting that the incoming veteran is simply a better scheme fit for this new coaching staff. That current young tackle has flash talent but hasn't found consistency, and with no extension talks happening behind the scenes, there's a real chance he's already playing out his final season in Chicago regardless of what happens with Vea. If that's true, if his future in Chicago is already shaky, using him as trade capital to bring in a proven difference maker suddenly makes a lot more sense. So here's your real question of the day. Drop your answer in the comments below. Would you rather the Bears send a clean third-round pick for Vea, or package their current young defensive tackle plus a 4th-rounder to get the deal done? Type 1 for the pick, or type 2 for the player plus pick package, and tell us why. Either route has real logic behind it. If you believe the current young tackle simply doesn't have a future on this roster, the second option saves you draft capital and solves 2 problems at once. But if you still believe in his upside, protecting him and paying with a pure draft pick keeps your future more flexible. This situation is moving fast, and there's a very real chance we get more clarity within days as training camp rolls on. Stay locked in, because the next update on this trade saga could change everything. If this breakdown got you fired up, smash that like button, drop your prediction in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss the next update the second it breaks.